If I can, in this video, I'm going to answer some questions. All right? These questions that I'm going to answer are so important. The information I'm going to share with you is so important that when the video gets old, I'm going to re-upload it so people who haven't heard the video can hear it. Okay? Not so important that you need to see it, but to hear it. All right? This is from my personal experience. It's my personal opinion, and my opinion in this case is right. Though it sounds arrogant, but it is. So again, if you haven't heard anything that I've said for 6 years, all right, hear what I'm going to say in this particular video. And again, it is so important, I feel, that I'm going to re-upload it after 4 or 5 months, 6 or 7 months, to make sure that people who haven't heard it get to hear it. All right? The questions I'm going to answer are, why don't I recommend some other channels, some other books? All right? 2 is how you can learn. How's the best way for you to learn about fighting? All right? And 3, who you should seek out. Right? Who you should seek out. What people are best to listen to when it comes down to fighting. Okay? So, first, a gentleman asked me, would I recommend, are there any books that I would recommend, any books I would recommend, any YouTube channels I would recommend, all right? First of all, I don't recommend certain books. I don't really necessarily recommend books, okay? I don't necessarily recommend books. And the reason is because when I read books, it's just like when I was in the university. When I read books, there are things I take and things I don't take, all right? When you're preparing for a test, anyone will tell you that you don't necessarily highlight everything in the book. You try to discern what is the most pertinent information for passing the test, and you do that, all right? I don't recommend books because I have books sitting around that they might be 250 pages. They might be 150 pages, right? And I agree with maybe 20% of it, right? So I don't necessarily recommend those books. Now, why don't I recommend certain channels? It's not a sense of selfishness, the reason why I don't recommend certain channels. I will tell you why I don't recommend certain channels, starting with this one. I do not look at a lot of channels. I simply do not look at a lot of channels. Even the best combative instructors on YouTube, there are things that would not have worked for me. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. Even the best combative instructors on YouTube, on social media, there are some things they do, to me, would not work. For me, would not work. Or they are doing them and not telling you certain things that can happen while you're going into that particular move. All right? If I was to say to any of you, I recommend this channel, then what you're going to do is you are going to think that I've seen everything on that channel, and then go to that channel and think that everything that individual says is absolutely correct. And it's not going to be. And it's not going to be, again, because what I have done is, if I looked at anyone's channel, it is because it was recommended to me. When I would check my channel, it would be to the right of my channel, if I'm looking this way, and it would, like, I would look and you see it, okay, it might be the same subject or something like that, and I would click on. I generally click on, if I click on any of these channels at all, I may watch a minute of it. I don't have time to do it, and I'm frankly not that interested in it, okay? So for me to recommend a channel, it means that, hey, Safe Carmen said this channel is great, I'm going to take everything off of this channel, and I would never do that. Okay? I would not do that. That's one reason, and it's the most important reason. The second reason is because there are only 2 channels in 6 years, well, about 3 channels in 6 years, right, who have supported us. That's it. That's it. Okay? Now, there are several reasons why that might have been. And realistically, I'm going to tell it the way it is. Maybe because I'm Muslim. Maybe because I'm black. Another reason is because I name names. And when you name names, it's not good for business. When you name names, it's not good for business. All right? I could have been much further ahead in my channel. Had I said when Floyd Mayweather was at the top of his popularity, had I said he was the greatest fighter of all time, then of course that would have brought me at least 75% more black subscribers. Had I said when Gennady Golovkin was at the top of his level, right? And I said he was the best middleweight of all time, would have destroyed every middleweight ever, right? Then at least, there's some who still would have been racist, but at least 50% more white subscribers would have came to our channel, all right? So these are reasons why people have separated themselves from me. Yet after 6 years, there is nobody on social media who has been more correct in what they've said as me. I don't care how arrogant it sounds, because I will tell you this. If someone else said what I said, people would say, yeah, he's absolutely right, there would be no problem. I say it and it's arrogance. But the fact of the matter is, for 6 years, I have virtually been correct about everything I've said, whether it was sport or whether it was street fighting. Right? Point blank, period. Now, I'm not saying no one else agreed with me. I'm not saying no one else said what I said. But what I am saying is, for me personally, Saif Karman, Umar Fight Camp, all right? For 6 years, I've been correct in virtually every single thing I've said for 6 years. Okay? When you're looking at 500 videos plus, that's a hell of a lot of being correct, people. That's a hell of a lot of being correct. 500 videos, correct in almost every area that I've ever spoken on, all right? But people separate themselves from me. Channels do not support us. Other channels other than Precision Striking and Shark Karate generally do not support Umar Fight Camp. Therefore, I see no reason to support them. So those are the two reasons, right? Their content is not something I know a great deal about, and I do not want to give you information and make you think that all of the content is great when the content is not necessarily great. They might make a sharp turn to the left, sharp turn, excuse me, to the right, and tell you to throw a jump spinning back kick against someone who's carrying a box cutter, who's trying to cut you with a box cutter. Now, if they do that, then what are you going to say? Well, Saif Karman recommended this channel, not on my watch. Then the other one is, they don't support us. So why support them? This is the big reason why I do not allow links into our forums. It's not a sense of being selfish, it's a sense of being fair. Many of you people are not going into the forums of these combative teachers and saying you need to check out Saif Karman. Really, you are not doing that. You are not taking my stuff and going around to some of these other guys of different ethnicities from different countries and saying you need to check out this guy, Saif Karman from America, this black guy, right? Or this black guy, right? You're not going to do that, all right? So please, I ask you, don't put other people's links into our forums. You take from me what you want, you take from them what you want, and you leave it at that. Next. Where should you learn from? Okay? Or how should you learn? One thing that I can say has benefited me. Two things. One, the lack of social media. When I was at the zenith of my training, there was no social media. Or no social media like YouTube. Didn't exist. So I had to do things. I had to train more than I could watch. All right? I had to test things for myself. Right? Most people are not doing that today. They're simply not doing that today. And when they are testing it, they're not testing it in any real way. Okay? The other thing that worked to my benefit is being 5'7". 5'7" is more responsible, me being 5'7", is more responsible for what I do, for my knowledge, and how I train and how I teach, is more responsible for my survival, right? During very tough times, including the crack epidemic, right? Of the 80s and early 90s, where I was thrown into the violence of that epidemic. All right, that particular, I will tell you, 5'7" is a blessing, has been a blessing to me. Has been a blessing to me because I could not afford the romanticism that so many people today have about fighting. I couldn't afford it. And when my channel is launched, I'm a little behind, but it will be up in the next 2 days. When my new channel is launched with just the combatives, you'll see the things that I do. You will see my combatives right there. Techniques, lectures, but more techniques than you've ever seen me do on YouTube, on Umar Fight Camp, right? Because Umar Fight Camp is going to be an information channel, but it's not going to be the combative channel. The combative channel for us will be the new channel, and you will see how I do things. Things that I've come about through my own life and through testing and my own finding situations. All right? Haven't had them recently for a long time, and that's good. But during my life, I've had them, and you will see the results of that. All right? When you understand how to learn, how then do you learn? How then should you learn? Listen up, listen good. This is valuable, will save you time, and will save you money. There is no substitute for looking at fights. There is no substitute for looking at fights. None whatsoever. Give you an example. You want to learn to fight from the guard. You want to learn to fight from the guard when you're on the bottom? Okay. Then put up your DVDs, put up your downloads, go to YouTube and watch how Rickson Gracie fights from the guard on the bottom in a no holds barred match. Okay? You want to learn how to fight from the guard, go watch how Rickson Gracie fights from the guard in a no holds barred match, all right? Against a guy 100 pounds heavier. You can go on YouTube, Valley Hudo, however you pronounce it, Rickson Gracie, type it in. I'm giving you permission, giving you information, throwing at you. I don't care where you find it, what channel you find it from, go ahead. You want to subscribe to that guy's channel, go ahead, because the information is important. Watch and see how he fights from the ground. Watch and see how he gets up. It is going to bore you to death. It's going to bore you to death. You are not going to nearly see what Eddie Bravo shows you. You are not going to see that. You will not see what Joe Rogan tells you. You are not going to see that. But you will watch and see a real fighter teaching you, showing you how to survive on your back in the guard. You want to know how to fight from the guard, then go back and watch the first UFC tournament with Royce Gracie. Fighting people, no gloves on, 100 pounds heavier. You want to see how fighting from the guard is done with the gi? Go ahead. It may bore you to death, but go ahead and study that. Put your downloads up, put your DVDs up, and go watch that. When an actual fight does not agree with the DVDs you purchased and the downloads you purchased, then there is a problem. I'm going to repeat, and this goes for Safe Carmen too. When what happens does not coincide with what you are purchasing, then there is a problem. Then you are purchasing from people who have not done it, whether it's sport or whether it's street, and you are purchasing from people who have not gone out of their way to make sure what you are learning is applicable to that ring, to that cage, to that pavement, whatever the case might be. There is no substitute whatsoever for watching fights. The same thing goes for boxing. Watch and see how Canelo Alvarez fights. Watch and see how Triple G fights. Watch and see how Floyd Mayweather fights. Watch and see how Spence fights. And then look at the DVDs and the downloads you were getting. And if they do not coincide with that, then you need to ask why what you are purchasing does not coincide with what actually goes on. But there is no substitute whatsoever to watching actual fights. Again, you want to learn how to fight from the bottom in the guard, then go and watch Rickson Gracie fight from the bottom in the guard. Okay? Watch Royce Gracie fight from the bottom in the guard with the gi. There is no substitute for watching fights. It will bore you. Do that. Take notes. I don't care who has it posted. I don't care if you want to subscribe to them. It doesn't matter. This is not anything. I'm trying to give you an education that you are not going to get many other places. I am telling you now. Watch fights. Learn from fights. And then look and compare the products you are purchasing with that. Do not do it the other way around. Doesn't make sense. You will not learn that way. Next. Who should you take information from? Who should you take information from? As far as I'm concerned, when it comes down to street fighting, there are three people. When it comes down to dealing in the street, there are three people or three genres that I think have the best information. All right? Corrections officers. Okay? There are no people in the world who know more about violence, how it's played out, how to avoid it, what starts it, okay? Maybe not necessarily techniques on how to deal with it, okay? But people who can tell you about violence, the mental thing. What is a sociopath? What sets a sociopath off? How do you deal with a sociopath? If you have to deal with them physically, what is the least you can do to keep that sociopath honest and to get that sociopath off of you? Okay? There are no people, all right, that are more qualified than these three people or these three areas when it comes down, okay? When it comes down, or four areas, right? When it comes down to dealing with violence, okay? One, the corrections officer. Very few people you do not find, all right, people who have more knowledge of real violence, how it is done, what the people are thinking like, what a nut thinks like, right? Than corrections officers, because they see it day to day. If they don't see violence every day, they see violent people every day. There is no substitute for their knowledge. Next, people who are bouncers, people who work the doors in some very tough sections, right? Because even though they may work the doors only on a Friday or a Saturday, or Friday and Saturday, once people get drunk, they show you what they really are, it comes out, all right? Those people right there, people who have worked the doors, those particular people right there, they can give you information that is pertinent and will help you. Okay? Third, ex-cons, ex-prisoners. Often I will see people talk about, this guy is qualified to teach combatives. This guy is qualified to teach self-defense. This guy is qualified. And guess the people who are locked out? The people who are locked out are the people who did 10 years in prison. The people who did 20 years in prison, right? These people are saying, well, what is he talking about? No, that guy knows. You may have worked the doors. You may have been in the military. You may have been, you may have been a police officer. You don't know more than somebody who's been locked up for 20 years. Okay? But those particular individuals aren't writing books, too many books. They're not writing too many books. You got to look for them, right? And they're not doing a lot of DVDs, right? And they're really not taking what they know and taking that, right? And then actually writing it down so where it's in some kind of system. I will tell you, Safe Carmen, and I'm not ashamed to say it, the people who have taught me more were ex-prisoners. Ex-prisoners have taught me more than I've ever gotten from anybody else when it comes down to the streets. I will tell you unequivocally. There are too many people who are ashamed to say it, but you can get a biker. You can get a guy from a biker gang, and a guy from a biker gang, a white biker gang, he will have DVDs and videos, and people say, man, he killed 3 people, and he's just as popular as he can be. Why? Because he killed 3 people. A black person, and yes, I'm saying it. I'm saying it because it pisses me off. A black person who has done 20 years in prison knows more about violence than 85% of the people on YouTube. 85% of the people on YouTube. And that's an absolute fact. Let me give you an example. Some of the best advice I ever got came from a man who did 16 years for killing his wife and the man that she was cheating on him with. Okay? Now, I'm not condoning what he did, but he was a bad man outside, and he survived in prison 15 years. And when he came out, he saw me. I had grown up. We were talking. He remembered my brother, and he gave me this advice. He saw me laughing one day. He saw me laughing at a joke, right? And he said, I want to talk to you. And back then they would call you Blood. I want not about the gangs, the Crips and the Bloods, but hey, Blood. He said, Young Blood, I want to talk to you for a minute. I said, what's that? He said, I know your brother. Your brother's a good friend of mine. He's a lot older than you, and he ain't going to be telling you a whole lot of things. He figured you're going to find out for yourself. But I'm going to tell you this. He says, when you laugh, I don't care how funny it is, you never laugh loud enough for people to see your molar teeth. This is what he told me. He said, Young Blood, never laugh, no matter how funny it is. Never laugh loud enough for people to see your molar teeth. I asked him why. It seemed like a frivolous thing to me. I asked him why. Why shouldn't I laugh? He said, because when a man is laughing at everything, and this is his words, not mine, his words, this is what he said. I don't generally use this language, but this is what he said. When a man laughs at everything, niggas will not take him seriously. you may have to shoot a nigga because he didn't take you seriously. You can avoid that by not being someone who laughs at everything. No matter how funny it is, young blood, only look amused. This is what he told me. He said, young blood, never laugh so loud when people see your molar teeth. Because if you laugh a lot, if you laugh at everything, niggas are not going to take you seriously. And you may have to shoot a nigga because he didn't take you seriously. Therefore, no matter how funny something is, young blood, only look amused. To this day at 56, my martial arts school is in what some people would call the belly of the beast. A rough area. I don't think it's that rough. I'm from amongst those people. But at 56, people don't spit in front of my school. People don't throw garbage in front of my school. People don't urinate in front of my school. People don't curse in front of my school. People don't smoke marijuana in front of my school. But they do it in front of every other place on that particular block. And they don't do it because they fear me. They do it because they can't figure me out. They don't know how far I'll go. That's one reason. And the other reason is because they know I love them. I'm a nice guy. I'm from them. I don't try to separate myself from them. Whatever issues they have, but I am them and they are me. So the fact of the matter is what people should you be taking information from? First, any correction officer that tells you anything, any former correction officer that tells you anything about violence, listen. Anybody who has really worked the doors and can prove that they worked the violent doors, club doors, on weekends for some period of time, they can tell you a little bit about violence. And people who have done time in prison, these people can tell you about violence. Some of the people that I've learned from the most are people who are ex-cons. These are the people you take information from. Lastly, I want to say something about soft skills. Many of you get caught up into hard skills, right? Fighting, that is part of it. But most of the problems that people have comes from their inability to develop a personality that helps them to look like a predator. Okay? The biggest problem I see with people is their inability to develop a personality, right, that tends to throw people off. It is soft skills. How you speak, how you walk, how you look, right? These particular things are some of the most important things you need to use when you are trying to ensure, right, or at least more ensure your self-protection, okay? Your demeanor, how you appear when you are out in public. People look. They look, especially in urban areas, especially in crowded areas, right? They look. This one looks like they'll fight for their money. This one doesn't. This one looks like they will fight for that chain. This one doesn't. This one looks like they will fight for that ring. This one doesn't. Now, before I finish this video, I'm going to give you another bit of information that I got from a good friend of mine. When you have a hold-up gang, a stick-up gang, a gang of armed robbers, you have the getaway driver. Yes, you still have the getaway driver. You have different people. You have to look out. But one of the most important members of your gang, I'm not telling you to rob places. I'm giving you some straight-up street knowledge. Okay? Straight-up street knowledge. Worth money. Here it comes free. One of the most important people in that hold-up gang is the one who makes the announcement, it's a hold-up. Right? Stay where you are. Right? It's that one. And they won't say it necessarily like I said it, but that's the one. Right? The one who makes the announcement, and I'll tell you why. Because if you can convince people, right, that you will take their head, they will behave in a way where you won't have to. The key is convincing them to cooperate. So if your voice is not convincing, if your tone is not convincing, then this only makes the robbery harder to pull off. That's soft skills. That's the value of soft skills. Personality. Uma Fight Camp. Safe Carmen. Train hard, train smart. See you next video.